The second leg of this road trip for the Phillies comes to a close this afternoon here in South Florida as the Phils wrap up this series against the Marlins. And yes, the Marlins fans are tipping their hat to say goodbye to the Phils and to the Marlins because they hit the road after this game as well. The Phils looking for a little offense and looking for their rookie right-hander to have a much better second start. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Ben Davis. We'll talk about Severino Gonzalez a little later on, but the story in this series really has been the Marlins offense. In fact, it's been the story for the last 3 games, or 4 games, I should say, between the Marlins and the Phils.
And it all starts at the top. D. Gordon has been a thorn in the Phillies' side. The guy gets on every time, seemingly, and he's hitting the ball hard. He's getting on via the walk. He's stealing bags, but pretty much he's barreling everything right now. Martin Prado also hurting the Phillies. They've kept Giancarlo Stanton pretty much in check, but the top 2, they have really, really hurt the Phils.
Well, neither Gordon or Prado are in the starting lineup today, but they obviously hurt the Phillies yesterday and hurt them the day before, and even back in Philadelphia. So it's a different 1-2 punch that the Phillies will have to deal with. It's Ichiro who's leading it off, but this is the offense of the series for the Marlins. It hasn't only been those 2 guys. Ozuna has torn up the Phillies during the season series.
And you look at that stat there, only 1 homer. That's it, and that was the one Martin Prado hit yesterday. But the doubles are killing the Phillies. They're getting guys on base, and they're knocking them in via the double.
Well, they're playing to this ballpark. All right, so it's not only about the offense for the Miami Marlins. Their pitching has been pretty good against the Phils, not only in this series, but even beyond in Philadelphia. The last 4 games against the Phils, the starters have a 1.50 earned run average, and the guy today, Jared Cozart, pitched very well back in Philadelphia last time these 2 teams faced each other.
He was great in Philly last time, and it says on the stats 80.3% of the time he's throwing a fastball. Well, that fastball, despite getting one, is cutting, it's sinking, it's down, and he also has a big overhand curveball, and that's something he used primarily to get Phillies out his last outing.
And a lot like Dan Herron yesterday, he's got a little bit of a delay, not the same delay, but a little bit of a delay and a twist before he comes to the plate.
And that's what throws the hitter's timing off, and it just throws them. It's just enough to where they're either getting their foot down too late or they're getting their foot down too early, and they're out in front of pitches. So it's something they're going to have to make the adjustment with today.
Well, this has been a very good homestand for the Miami Marlins. The Phillies hopefully will cool them off here this afternoon in the final game of this 3-game series. It will be Jared Cozart for the Marlins. Severino Gonzalez will make his second Major League start for the Phillies. And speaking of Severino, when we return, we'll talk about some of the adjustments that he's made in between starts, how that can affect him here today. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Citizens Bank. One deposit checking. Keeping things simple is helping you bank better. By Toyota. Toyota Time Sales event ends June 1st. Hurry in today. Toyota, let's go places. By Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. getting their last bit of food, their last bit of drink, and getting ready to settle in for the final game between the Phils and the Marlins. Earlier on this road trip, Severino Gonzalez made his major league debut. It lasted only 2 2/3. I think he's thankful that the Phillies are giving him another chance here this afternoon against the Marlins.
He should feel fortunate that he does have another opportunity because, to be perfectly honest, the first outing just didn't go very well. A lot of fastballs elevated, and the balls were hit very, very hard. He just didn't seem like he could get into counts where he could use his other pitches, primarily fastball. When you don't have an overpowering fastball, it's going to get hit.
Well, you talked about location. Obviously, that's important. That's something they worked on in his bullpen session earlier this week. Look at where these pitches are. It starts off with Matt Carpenter, who got a hold of this one for a double, and it never ended for the Cardinals.
It really did. Yes, that is a very, very good hitting ball club, but these pitches are middle, and they are elevated, and the Cardinals aren't going to miss them. So hopefully he can go out and make those adjustments. We saw him working thoroughly in the bullpen, and if he can make those adjustments, he may have some success today.
Yeah, Bob McClure and Rod Nichols, the bullpen coach for the Phillies, said inside and outside on the corners is what they want him to focus on and not get the ball in the middle of the plate, and then be able to throw his cutter and his changeup when the count is appropriate. So we'll see if it's effective here this afternoon. Severino Gonzalez making his second major league start. He's just moments away. Toss is underway as he wraps up this homestand for the Marlins. The roof, strangely enough, is closed this afternoon here in South Florida. Bright blue skies, bright sunshiny blue skies outside, but they said they don't want their fans to be hot. Let's take a look at the Phillies starting lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment home of the Philadelphia Phillies. Ben Revere leads it off in center. Chase Utley bats second. Darren Ruff will hit third, followed by Ryan Howard and Grady Sizemore. Cody Ashley, the third baseman, bats sixth. In the bottom third of Cesar Hernandez, Cameron Rupp, and Severino Gonzalez. And they will face right-hander Jared Cozart, the former Phillies prospect, now 24 years old, making his fifth start of the season. He's allowed some base runners in his 25 1/3, but man, does he keep the ball down when he is on top of his game.
And he seems like he can sink it and cut it. He was very, very good against the Phillies last time. Mixed in some big curveballs, but as we look at the scouting report, 92 95 curve change, and he's currently 12 innings of scoreless baseball. So he's been pretty darn good for them.
Yeah, he faced the Phillies the last time these two teams faced each other and was very effective, 6 innings. Now let's take a look at the Nissan keys to the game.
The keys for me, gotta go Gonzo. Severino Gonzalez has to have a better start than he had last time in St. Louis. And who's going to hit? Somebody needs to step up here and do some damage offensively for this ball club.
Yeah, because they've got to cool off the Miami Marlins, who are at 500 in second place in the National League East. And more than anything else, the Phillies have to feel good about themselves going into the last 3 games of this road trip. All right, Ben Revere will lead things off. Revere 2 for 8 so far in this series. And the first pitch of the game is taken down low, so we're underway. Little different look at the top. It's Revere, Utley, and Ruff, 1, 2, and 3. Chopper back toward the middle, and Solano gets to it and will not have a play, so Revere is aboard. So Ben Revere celebrating his 27th birthday. Starts the ball game off with an infield hit. Donovan Solano playing second base for D. Gordon, who gets the day off.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, Mike Redmond may have done the Phillies a favor by not putting D. Gordon in the starting lineup. That'll bring Chase Utley to the plate. Utley hitting just 115. He's 1 for 8 in the series with a 3-run home run. And Utley takes on the outside corner. It's 0-1. Ben Revere, by the way, has stolen 5 bases. He's been caught twice so far as he takes his lead over at first. Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Stan Swalla of Wayne. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game, and Stan will win $200.
Good luck, Stan.
Phillies have not had a home run in a couple of games, so that's why the pot is up to 200. A 1 pitch to Chase Utley coming. Now that's low. 1 ball, 1 strike.
When I talk about Cozart, when he sinks it and cuts it, sometimes, and I'm sure he does know where it's going, but it looks like sometimes he's meant to throw in sinker down and away to a lefty. At the last minute, it cuts, and it cuts and it kind of goes down. That's why he got so many ground balls in the last outing.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty evident his last time out and pretty surprising. At least from our standpoint, we had not seen him since he was in the Phillies farm system. Went over to the Astros in the Hunter Pence trade, and the Astros traded him to the Marlins last year. There were a handful of players that went in that trade. Cozart, of course, was the key that the Marlins were looking for. And Jake Marisnick was one of the keys that the Astros were looking for. And man, did he make a catch last night up at Towles Hill. Runner goes, pitch is dribbled foul. And it's 2 balls and 2 strikes now to Utley.
See, that swing there by Chase, that's not him. You know, he does have a short swing, but that swing there was choppy. And almost like he was just trying to cut the ball. And it's just not him. It's just not. There's nothing fluid about. Even when he has the typical Chase Utley swing, it's still a fluid swing. That one there is choppy.
Well, you saw that note that popped out. He's a .306 hitter when he's batting second in the lineup. It's not that often during his career. Swing and a miss, and he is struck out. This is only the 214th game in which Chase has batted second.
There's that pitch there. You can see it just cut at the little. You can see the little red dot on it. I'm still 95, but it cut at the last minute.
Well, here's Darren Ruff. Ruff making his 7th start of the year in left field. Second time he's batted 3rd this year. And he'll take one at the knees. It's 0-1. Phillies trying to jumpstart this offense. Ben Revere's infield single was only the 2nd time in the 19 innings that these two teams have played that the Phillies have had the leadoff batter aboard. And he was the other one. That was in the 4th inning in Game 1. There he goes. Pitch is fouled away. 0-2.
And you would think this Phillies offense would come out and be aggressive today. Cozart throws 80.3% of his pitches this year have been fastballs. 80.3.
Well, I guess he has the luxury to do that because they do move.
Absolutely.
At least they did the last time the Phillies saw him. And as you mentioned, he's got a 12-inning scoreless streak going. 0-2 pitch. Revere goes again. It's chopped toward first. So Revere will get to second. And Ruff is retired. He was trying to punch it through the hole on the right side. And there are 2 outs. And here comes Ryan Howard slowly strolling to the plate. Howard is hitless in this series. He has struck out 4 times. He's 3 for 22 on the road trip. Fastball on the outside corner. It's 0-1. He wasn't happy about that call, but it wasn't a pitch that he could swing at anyway and get anything behind.
Yeah, you're not going to do much with that pitch, but still, you don't want to fall behind.
Down the left field line, that'll slice out of play, and it goes to no balls and 2 strikes to Howard. Umpire for today's ball game is the veteran Paul Schreiber. Clint Fagan's at first, Brian O'Nora is at second, and Matty Gonzalez is around at third. No balls, 2 strikes to Howard. And that pitch just missed. Saw Solano, the catcher, move his glove just a little bit. A lot of the infielders started to head off toward the dugout.
We can see Jared Cozart is feeling good today. It's probably off a hair. I wouldn't be taking that later on in the ball game, though. I know that.
Chopper toward first, a foul ball past Juan Samuel.
That may have been the first off-speed pitch that we've seen him throw.
Out of the 14? Yeah, I would agree with you. That's probably 13 of 14. Yeah, because the cutter he threw to Utley, it's not necessarily an off-speed pitch. Down the left field line, that'll be out of play. Just trying to stay alive.
I love when the adults give the balls to little kids. That's great. It's a great gesture.
The way it should be. And Howard is struck out. A sinking fastball at 96. So 2 strikeouts in the inning for Cozart. No runs, 1 infield hit, 1 man left. All right, so Severino Gonzalez gets a second chance when we come back. His starting lineup for today. It's brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Ichiro leads it off in left. Adeiny Echeverria bats second. Giancarlo Stanton will hit third. Marcelo Ozuna fourth. Mike Morse back in the lineup today. He'll bat fifth. Reed Brignac over at third base bats sixth. And the bottom third of Solano, and Cozart. That's right, the brothers batting back-to-back here for the Marlins. There's Severino Gonzalez making his second major league start. The first one lasted just 2 2/3. He allowed 10 hits and walked 2 in that ball game against the Cardinals.
His pitches were elevated against a very good hitting ball club in the Cardinals.
Well, Ichiro, who is normally a leadoff hitter in his heyday with the Seattle Mariners, he takes a strike and it's 0-1.
As we look at the scouting report, 86 to 92, slider curve change. And that's something that he needs to do, is get into counts where he can use his off-speed pitches.
Yeah, in fact, talking to Rod Nichols, the Phillies bullpen coach today, he said that they would also like him to even start a hitter off with a changeup from time to time. Just get them off the fastball as best they can. 2 balls and 1 strike to Ichiro. He bunts foul, and it's 2-2.
Sometimes when you do that, though, if you start it, unless you have a really good one, the hitter may just recognize it as just another pitch, as a fastball, because he has nothing else to gauge it off of.
And it may be kind of like a BP fastball.
Yeah.
Outside, 3-2. He had a bullpen session, a very lengthy one, with Rod Nichols and with Bob McClure earlier this week. And they didn't really talk about mechanics that much. They more talked about location. And he walks Ichiro to start things off. And obviously, Murph, walks have been a big topic of conversation. We've discussed it a lot. Ryan Sandberg has discussed it a lot. It's been an issue for the Phils so far this year.
It has been a big issue for the Phils, Tom. You're absolutely right. If you're looking at one of the things that the Phillies absolutely need to do better, it's their starting pitching and their relievers not walking batters. And that's a tough way to start. Take a look. They have 103 walks this season. That's the most in baseball. 29% of those have scored, including 3 in this series. The starters are walking about 3.5 per 9. The relievers 5.5 per 9 innings. That is the worst in baseball. So it is something that, as you mentioned, Ryan Sandberg has addressed. But the bottom line is the guys, they're going to need to do that, and it's been a serious problem going forward. Or looking back on this season so far, it's been a big problem, and it will continue to be a big problem unless they get that ship righted, guys.
Yeah, Rhino has talked about it even on this road trip. He said, "Listen, we have discussed it over and over and over again." And as Murph alluded to, they can only talk about it so much, but the pitchers have to execute better. Ichiro goes. The pitch is swung out and missed. The throw to second, though, not in time. A stolen base for Ichiro. It's his first of the year.
Still doing it at 41 years old. It's a very good jump. Not a whole lot Cameron Rupp to do.
And going in feet first. So now that walk that we just talked about is in scoring position, and it's 1-2 to Echeverria. Breaking ball. Did he go? No, says the first base umpire.
Tom, you only have to look as far back as the last 2 games here in Miami to see how that has been such a problem. Stanton, the game-winning run in the first game of this series, was a walk in that inning, and D. Gordon scored yesterday on that 3-run home run by Prado, also after being walked. So it's been an issue in this series. It's been an issue all season long.
Yeah, 27 walks on this road trip, Murph, and of those 26 walks on this road trip. Of those 26, 12 have scored. Now that's even higher than what the season average is.
That's amazing. And I felt bad for the fans at home because I just really felt like I was just keep grinding it out. The walks are bad, walks are bad. But it's true. I mean, they will just come back and bite you.
Severino steps off, and Ichiro walks back toward the bag.
And I know these pitchers are not trying to walk anybody.
No, of course not.
But, there's certain times you have to. But they just need to make a concerted effort to make better pitches when they can, not run such deep counts, because then when you do that, you have to lay one in there.
Well, there's Jerome Williams and Cole Hamels, the starters in the first 2 games of this series. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Ichiro goes. The pitch is swung on and missed. The throw to third is high, and Ichiro has stolen his second bag. A strikeout for Gonzalez, but a runner at third with 1 man down.
He was out there timing him. A good throw might get him. The ball just sailed up and away from Cody.
Well, they're going to throw that baseball out for Gonzalez because that is his first major league strikeout. But now he's got to deal with a runner at third and Giancarlo Stanton at the plate. They're going to play the infield back, in fact, way back. And the first pitch to him is hit in the air to right center field. Sizemore will get under it. Ichiro tags from third. Sizemore will make the catch and just throw it in. It'll be a sac fly. And a walk to lead off the first inning, and the walk comes around to score. It's 1-0 Marlins on top.
It's not rocket science. You walk them, they're going to score. Stanton not waiting around a whole lot of time. Sees a man on third. They start salivating.
Yeah, he sees a first pitch fastball, and he does the right thing. You know, be aggressive when there's an RBI situation. Marcell Ozuna's the batter, and Ozuna fouls the first pitch back. It's 0-1. All right, now with all that said today, in this first inning, 1 run has scored. But Severino has thrown more than just fastballs in this inning.
Yes.
We've seen a couple breaking pitches. His cutter is supposedly his best pitch. There's another curve, and that's a pretty one. It's 0-2.
It's a great pitch. Great pitch. The more you can mix and match, the better off you're going to be.
Not a bad idea. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Love it.
I was involved in a conversation as an extra man today with Bob McClure and Larry Anderson, and they were talking about that particular pitch right there, that young pitchers just don't do it enough. And it's not like you're going to try to hit them, but you do want to get them moving their feet a little bit. Swing and a miss. He got him. There's the cutter, and it's the second strikeout of the inning for Severino Gonzalez. However, a run does score. Giancarlo Stanton gets a sacrifice fly. We'll go to the second. It's 1-0 Marlins. Women 15 and over will receive the wristlet with the Phillies logo on it. Get your tickets now by going to Phillies.com. It's all part of a 3-game series against the New York Mets. We go to the second. Phillies trail at 1-0. Grady Sizemore makes the start in right field. Will lead it off. Sizemore batting 5th behind Ryan Howard, hitting 167. Ryan Sandberg was asked today, and every manager's asked about his lineup, just like Mike Redmond was asked about, well, why are you leading Ichiro off? Why are you putting Adeiny Echeverria second? And Rhino was asked about batting Sizemore 5th as he lines that out toward Ichiro. And from his knees, did he just want to make it look tougher?
It's much cooler that way. Game's too easy for him. He likes to spice it up a little bit. He did this last night. I don't know if he's losing it in the lights. Maybe he wants to catch maybe the second half of this game.
I think Ozuna was getting on him a little bit from center field. So now here's Ashe. Anyway, Ryan Sandberg said that the reason it's Sizemore 5th and Ashe 6th is because the last time he put Ashe up in the 5-hole, he struggled and he felt like he changed his approach. for one reason or another. He said Sizemore, even with his struggles, he never changes his approach. He's the same no matter what. Breaking ball inside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
I think that can be said of Cody as well. I don't see him changing his approach a whole lot.
Yeah, he felt like he did when he put him in the 5-hole to try to, I don't know, become more of a power hitter. But he was 0 for 15 when he moved him to the 5-hole. So he thought that, you know, keep him where he's comfortable, even though he's been scuffling a little bit lately. His average down to 284. 2-1 pitch is on the outside corner. It's 2-2.
Cody not happy with that call. But, I mean, you can't swing at it. You're not going to do anything with that pitch.
Curveball and a call. Strike 3. Third strikeout for Cozart. I think when Cody turned around to the home plate umpire, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think he was talking more about the previous pitch than that curveball.
Yeah, I don't think he was arguing this pitch. I mean, this is a strike all day long. Good breaking ball.
Now Cesar Hernandez. Cesar is 0 for 2 in this series and 1 for 5 on the road trip. One ball and 1 strike to him. During the 2015 season, Turkey Hill, the official ice cream of the Phillies, will contribute $100 for each Phillies victory and 5 cents for each carton of Phillies Grand Slam ice cream, sold to support the Phillies youth baseball and softball programs. 1 ball, 1 strike. And there's a strike on the outside corner. It's 1-2.
Roof were open. Might be able to have some ice cream, Tom.
No, the roof was open. The ice cream would have melted. And that's why the roof is closed. Swing and a tapper foul.
Fans watching and listening at home, Tom has brought up that the roof is closed no more than 25 times, maybe 26 times today.
I'm trying to get a legitimate explanation as to why.
Hey, Ben, do you know the roof is closed?
Little tapper in front of the plate, and it rolls foul. Well, Dan Herron yesterday commanded the Phils offense with slow, slower, and slowest. He went 6 innings, allowed 4 hits, struck out 4, didn't walk anybody, and picked up his 3rd victory of the season. Ground ball, second base. Solano to his right. He's got it. Oh, he pulled Morse off the bag, and Hernandez is safe at first. That is the 7th error, I should say only the 7th error by Donovan Solano and the Marlins this year.
Cesar gets a breaking ball, smokes it to second, and just doesn't follow through. I think Morse could have done a little bit better job of staying on the bag there.
I would agree with you on that.
I mean, the guy's 6'12". It's definitely an E4, but I think maybe his one sacker could have helped him out a little bit more.
Here's Cameron Rupp. Rupp hitting 154, and he lines it to right field and caught by Giancarlo Stanton. Side is retired. No runs, no hits. 1 man left. There was 1 Marlins error. Middle of the 2nd. Yep, if you weren't sure, there's a view to let you know. go to the bottom of the second. Time to take a look at our T-Mobile game changer. Man, these Marlins have been red hot. You know, when they arrived in Philadelphia, they were scuffling. But since that time, they have really turned it on. Their average as a team over the last 10 days, 322. Now, a lot of that is because of D. Gordon, who you just saw. Martin Prado had a big hit yesterday. Marcell Ozuna has been red hot. Stanton's been steady. But 322, they're 50 points higher than the Rockies over the last 10 days. So we saw the Cardinals. We didn't think anybody was hotter than them.
No, but this lineup, I mean, it's not as star-studded now as the Cardinals is. But I think in a couple years, you're going to see a lot of these guys in all-star games.
Mike Morse leads it off here in the second against Gonzalez, and he takes a strike. It's 0-1. See that fastball at 91 miles an hour. I don't think he reached 91 in his first start, so that's a good sign.
Very good sign.
Just a bit low.
Good pitch.
Mike Morse has struck out 25 times this year. His average is at 202. It's that one over to third. Big hop for Kobayashi. One away here in the second.
Curry did a nice job of coming and getting that ball, not staying back and getting it in between hop. Saw it, went and attacked it, made a good throw to first.
Reed Brignac 0 for 5 so far this year. Last year with the Phillies, he had 222, had a home run, a couple of other extra base hits. But 0 for 5 this year and hitless in his last 19 at-bats.
Another good side for Severino Gonzalez is up until Brignac here. 5 straight first pitch strikes. Working ahead.
Change up, just missed. Brignac playing third for Martin Prado, who had a big 3-run home run yesterday that got the offense started for the Marlins.
I don't know how the rest of this day is going to go for Severino, but does it seem like his fastball has a lot more jump on it?
Absolutely. Fly ball left field. Ben Revere, or excuse me, Darren Ruff dances around, puts it away. Teva Respiratory Asthma Awareness Night will be Monday, May 11th. All fans coming to the ballpark to see the Phils and the Pirates. The start of that 4-game series will receive that cap and get compliments of Teva. Order your tickets by going to Phillies.com. It's always great when you come to the ballpark and the giveaway is a cap for everyone.
For everyone.
Here's Solano, Donovan Solano, and he takes strike one. It's 0-1.
Gotta cover up the salad.
Is that what you call it? Ground ball to third, gobbled up by Ashe. Well, very good inning for Severino Gonzalez. He retires the Marlins in order. He's retired the last 6. So that means we'll move to the third. The Phillies trail it by 1. .com. Go to the fan section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, here we go, Ben. Marlins coach Lenny Harris is Major League Baseball's all-time pinch hits leader. Who is second? 212 pinch hits for Lenny Harris. Who is second? Answer will be revealed in just a little bit.
It's a good one.
That is a good one. Here's Severino Gonzalez, who takes a strike. It's 0-1. Severino had one at bat. Swing and a miss. 0-2.
Gets a knock here. He'll have a plethora of balls to put on his mantle.
Being marked up as we speak. Two balls and two strikes. Swing and a miss, and strikeout number 4 for Jared Cozart. And we'll go back to the top of the order. Tomorrow morning, Rob Ellis, Julian Mealy, Barrett Brooks, and Sarah Baker are waking you up with their reactions to the Eagles draft picks. Watch Breakfast on Broad, presented by Virtua Joint Replacement Institute, weekday mornings from 6 until 8, over on the Comcast Network. Draft concluded yesterday. Boy, what a busy day yesterday in the world of sports.
What happened?
Well, I'll run it down for you. The Kentucky Derby.
Okay.
I understand there was a cricket match that was really important. Spurs Clippers, Game 7, came down to a last-second shot by Chris Paul, and obviously Mayweather Pacquiao last night. One ball and one strike, and also there was a variety of Arena Football League games that were played yesterday.
Did not know that, Tom.
Golf tournament. They're having a playoff today. That's why Rory McIlroy couldn't go to the boxing match last night.
Did Chris Paul make the shot or not?
Oh, yeah, he made it.
Oh.
Yeah, hurt his hamstring during the game, though. 1-1 pitch to Revere. Outside 2-1. So there will be, Ben, a new champion of the National Basketball Association this year.
I was really worried.
You thought that the Spurs were going to win back-to-back? Here's the 2-1 to Revere. Pulls it toward first. That is a fair ball. Morse has got it. Flips to Cozart just in time. 3-1 on the putout. Man, did that hug the line.
Sure did.
I don't know if Ben hurt himself or not. It looked like he was grimacing as he was coming back toward the dugout. Yeah, he's stretching out that left leg.
Just hope it's not a hammy. Looks like he's grabbing the back of his hamstring there. Hopefully it's just a cramp.
Yeah, just trying to stretch it out. Here's Chase Utley. Utley takes on the outside corner, 0-1. Let's watch and see if we can see where it started to bother him. Looked like he was okay going down the line. He got a slow start because he thought the ball was foul.
Yeah, he kind of hesitated there in the box. You know, one pitch I did see Cozart throw to Ben was a changeup. He missed up and away. It was 83 miles an hour. That's a pitch I just don't think he's going to have a feel for. It's just something you have to throw and convince yourself that you can throw it. When you're a power pitcher, getting the feel for a changeup can be tough. Completely different grip, especially if you're throwing a circle change. But just another pitch that could make him that much more effective.
Well, he is peppering the outside part of the plate. Paul Shriver's buying into every pitch.
It's like his ball, like the left-handed hitters give up on it. it gets to the plate, and they think it's outside, and it's not. Another heater away.
And Utley taps it. Oh, flagged out by Cozart. Good play. Throws low, dug out by Morse. Side is retired in order. 1-3 on the put out. No runs, no hits, nobody left. Phillies go down in order. We'll head to the bottom of the third here in Miami. And by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop Nissan.com. Bottom of the third, Phillies trail at 1-0. A leadoff walk to Ichiro Suzuki. He stole a couple bags in the first and then scored on a sac fly. And now we'll move to the bottom of the third. And Jonathan Solano will lead things off for the Marlins against Severino Gonzalez. There was a couple strikeouts today. Trying to get through this third. He lasted just 2 2/3 in his first outing against the Cardinals. And he delivers a strike. It's 0-1. He's one of a handful of guys who has made his major league debut as a starter this year, or has made a start in his rookie season. Throws a breaking ball. It's 0-2. Now the 7 earned runs that he allowed, the second most that a Phillies pitcher has allowed in his debut. The most was by Russ Miller, who allowed 8 earned runs in 1927. There's a fly ball to short center. Ben Revere is under it, and he makes the catch. 1 out.
Nice to see if Ben was going to make his way out to the outfield after grimacing and holding that left hamstring, but it took him a while to get out there, but he made it out.
Well, now Jared Cozart will be the batter against Gonzalez. First pitch is a strike. It's 0-1.
92 on that heater.
Well, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, maybe 190-mile-an-hour fastball against the Cardinals?
Maybe one.
Inside, 1-1. Cozart is 0 for 7 with 4 strikeouts. Chopper back towards shortstop. Cesar Hernandez has got it. And there are 2 outs. Well, we talk about the guys that have made starts in their rookie season this year. Archie Bradley, he's had the best year out of the rookie starters. 6 innings, 1 hit in his initial start. He's the guy that got with the line drive the other day, so he's on the DL. But look at some of those other guys that made a start this year. Some of them were good, some of them weren't great. I mean, Archie Bradley's the only one that had 0 earned runs in 6 innings of work.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of emotion that goes into it. Your adrenaline's going. It's, you're realizing that everything you've done your whole life in terms of baseball is coming to fruition at one moment. I mean, it's a lot. It's some guys can do it, some guys can't.
So A.J. Cole, he allowed the most earned runs. 2 guys from the Cincinnati Reds. They each allowed some allowed 3 runs in 5 innings of work. You wonder how much jitters, you wonder how much physical maturity, all those things played into it. And the fact that he's settled in here, at least in the second start, is a good sign. Little floater over toward third and out of play.
That ball bounce. It's close.
It was probably close. Well, he's hit a baseball that's bounced before, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. Had to give Ichiro's interpreter, Alan Turner, a list of restaurants. We take a look at this changeup.
That's pretty close.
It's close.
You got to give him a list of restaurants?
Yeah, and when he comes to Philadelphia, he said Ichiro really likes Italian food, so I had to give him a list of Italian restaurants in the city. Very appreciative.
Topper back toward the mound. Here comes Hernandez, and he's not going to be able to make that play. We'll see what they do here. They'll probably give him a base hit. And they do. So that's the first hit of the day for the Marlins. The combination of trying to rush that throw over because Ichiro was running.
Yeah, you try and get it on a good hop and still make that transfer to your hand, and then make it good. You're going to have to throw it hard to first base. So I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to swipe another one.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, Echeverria could lead it off in the 4th inning. There he goes. Pitches a strike. Throw to second is in time.
Yeah.
Utley kind of blocked Ichiro from getting to the bag, even though the spikes were flying. The putout goes 2-4, and the side is retired. No runs, 1 hit, and nobody left. Cameron Rupp had a little mustard on that throw to second base. A quick release, and Chase Utley took care of the rest. That's it for the Marlins here in the 3rd. On to the 4th inning. Phillies down 1-0. K-Cup pods to keep you running. Order by 11:30 and get free same-day delivery. Who but WB Mason. Back inside here at Marlins Park. We'll go to the top of the 4th inning. Darren Ruff, Ryan Howard, Grady Sizemore.
We're inside because the roof is closed, right, Tom?
Roof and the windows are closed. Curveball to Ruff, and it's 0-1.
I got a little animated at Cameron Rupp's throw. That was a rocket. He got up. He didn't throw it to Chase Elliott. He threw it through him.
Well, his percentage, even with Ichiro's 2 stolen bases today, has been excellent this year in his limited starts. 1-1 to Darren Ruff. He grounded to first his only time up, and he pops that one up. Mike Morse over toward the railing. It'll be back into the seats.
You know, one thing I do like about this park from a hitter standpoint, foul territory. There's not a whole lot of it here.
Yeah, it's pretty limited. You
know, you go to the Coliseum out in Oakland, and it's just a whole football field, it seems, between the fair line and the dugouts. But here, not so much.
Well, they had a certain plot of land that they could build this facility on. It's an enormous place because of the retractable roof. It's the site of the old Orange Bowl.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
2-2 pitch to Ruff. Inside, 3-2.
Remember when I went on my recruiting visit to the University of Miami, they took me to a football game. It was October. I remember sitting in those stands thinking, it is so hot. I mean, we were sweating bullets.
Little tapper in front of the plate. Cozart off the mound easily. And there's one away. I did one football game at the old Orange Bowl. It was a Rutgers Miami football game, and it absolutely poured. And there were leaks everywhere in the radio booths.
Really?
Oh, I mean, everywhere. That was toward the end before they closed it up and knocked it down. Ryan Howard struck out his first time up. Last year they played a football game here. One of the bowl games was played here. A ball and no strikes.
See Rhino catch up to one of these heaters.
Fouls it away. It's 1-2. "17 consecutive scoreless innings, and they've been retired in order 11 times in this series. Mentioned that the leadoff batter Ben Revere led off the game with a single. That was only the second time. He was the only other one to lead off an inning with a base hit.
Conversely, you look at D. Gordon in the top of the Marlins side. The numbers are so lopsided in this series, you know, from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, the leadoff batter for the Marlins has gotten on base coming into this game 8 times. Coming into this ball game, 9 counting Ichiro in the first. Got to stay loose at 41, Ben.
That's all he does.
Howard is struck out. Ball gets away. Oh no, he maybe got a piece of it.
When I handed that note to his interpreter today, I wished him luck and said thanks for the autographed bat, and came back and all the reporters were sitting there. I said, tell that man to stop stretching. And one of the reporters says, if he stops stretching, he might die. He is limber.
Way outside, 3-2.
See, that pitch for me there, it's kind of I wouldn't say it's a waste pitch. He didn't throw it effectively, but Ryan hasn't shown the ability to catch up to his fastball, so why do him a favor?
Well, he throws the changeup, and Howard is struck out for the second time. 5 strikeouts for Jared Cozart. Grady Sizemore's coming up, and well, the guy behind the plate, Jonathan Solano, is dealing with Cozart right now, and he's also dealing with playing with his brother Donovan out at second base. Here's his Geico quote of the day about playing with his brother. We would talk about playing in the big leagues as kids. I would tell him I'd like to play together on the same team, but he would say no, better to play against each other. He's always been a competitor. And the 2 Solano brothers getting a chance to play today for the Marlins.
That's pretty stinking cool.
Yeah, it is pretty neat. Grady Sizemore takes outside. Murph, what about the 2 brothers getting a chance to play with each other in the lineup?
You know, first of all, that is a terrific quote. You know, you always have that competitive nature between brothers, and but these guys are not only got a chance to play against one another, but also got a chance to play with one another now. You know, it's not the first time it's ever happened in Major League Baseball, but the first time they played against each other in 2012, mom and dad both in the stands. It was the Nationals versus the Marlins. One parent was wearing the Nationals garb, one was wearing the Marlins garb, and but now they can come to this game and they can watch them in the same lineup together. That has to be a thrill for their family, no doubt about it, guys.
Absolutely. So the Solano brothers, the first brother combination to bat in order since the Upton brothers back in 2013. Dealer at ChevyDealer.com, and by Jefferson, where health is all we do. Call 1-800-JEFF now or visit jefferson.edu. Following the ballgame, the Phillies will head to Atlanta, the final leg of this road trip. First, though, the rest of this game against the Marlins, they trail at 1-0. And Gonzalez gets Echeverria to pop out into foul territory. Ashe leans in, and it goes off the thumb of his glove. What a great effort. And the count is no balls and 1 strike.
I thought he was going to have enough.
Thought it was going to come back a little bit.
I really did. You know, if that's a lefty, it probably does slice back. But coming from a righty, it's going to go the other way.
He was caught on the sign, the advertising sign. It kind of slowed him from getting off his feet. 0-2.
I talked about the foul territory and how there's not much of it. I mean, that's pretty much an out in any other ballpark. You got to love that as a hitter. Think about how many extra opportunities you get throughout the course of a season. I mean, this is just not. It's just not that far.
Up and in, 1 ball, 2 strikes. We're seeing Severino Gonzalez's pace that we were told about, how quickly he gets to the mound and gets ready to go. 2-2 pitch to Echeverria. Outside, 3-2.
And me being the eternal optimist, Tom, it's also not a very long walk back from home plate after striking out.
You don't even have to pace this one off.
No.
It's just a little stroll. Swing and a miss. He got him. He threw him a sinker at 90 miles an hour. And that's the third strikeout for Severino Gonzalez.
And twice he's gotten Echeverria. Ball is just, I know it was only 9, but it just seems like it's got a different jump to it. Like I always said, Pedro Martinez's 95 was way harder than anybody else's 100. It just had that jump, that life on it. And I'm nowhere near comparing him to Pedro, but I mean, Petey's ball just would explode on you.
There's a line drive base hit into left field. And that ball was scorched in a wide turn by Stanton. Second hit of the day for the Marlins. That's a strong man.
That ball was scorched. And he, you know what, he uses his lower half to a degree, but he's a very upper body dominant hitter.
Little low, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Two hits for the Marlins, 1 hit for the Phillies. Marlins over this homestand have hit .323 as a team. It's a good breaking ball right there. He had him off his front foot and he fouls it back. Popped him up. Shallow center. Hernandez on the run. Revere coming in. He dives and he can't get it. It drops in for a base hit. A bloop single for Marcell Ozuna. And that puts runners on first and second. I don't know if Ben froze initially. I wonder if that hamstring hampered him from. No, he was moving pretty good. Oh.
Got a bad read on it. I mean, that ball's in the air entirely too long. That ball has to be caught.
Oh, he got a really bad read on it. Yeah, that ball's got to be caught.
Well, you watch the balls he hit in the first night. I mean, he hit one to dead center, that short hop to center field wall, hit a couple in the gap. So I guess you're just thinking, but that's just, that ball's up there entirely too long.
It sounds strange to say, but if Herrera was out there, he would have caught that ball. Morse fouls it back. It's 0-1. At least the way Herrera's been playing, he would have caught that ball. Odubel getting a day off. He hasn't been off for a while.
Is it the first game he's been out?
Since the first week of the season. Remember, he missed those 2 games.
That's right. Yeah, with his foot. That's right.
Inside, and it's 1-1. I think a lot of folks were skeptical when they made the switch, putting Herrera in center and Revere in left, because Herrera was so inexperienced. But those plays right there, that play that Ben just made, that's what he did an awful lot last couple years on those fly balls, those short fly balls, just not getting the read on it. He's definitely been better in left field with all that stuff.
I think he's gotten great jumps on balls in left field. Obviously, the throwing has come a long way since last year. But I'm also very surprised at the jumps Odubel's been getting. I mean, he's still not Devon White out there, but he's impressed me, and he's only going to get better.
It remains 1-2 to Morse as he goes after a high fastball and fouls it back. down the right field line, and that is slicing foul. Got to make that catch, young man. Follow the Phillies all season in 2015 with MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment. With in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com At Bat for your smartphone or tablet today. Check swing. Did he go? No. This is the first base umpire.
Tight little breaking ball.
With that replay, it looked like he did hold up.
Aaron Harang telling us today on the bus about his bat, 35, 33 and a half.
Swing and a miss. Struck him out. 4 strikeouts for Gonzalez.
Didn't help there. There's that changeup. See rotation, and that had some good late downward movement. One more to get here, Severino.
Yeah, Reed Brignac fly to rough in left field his first time up. Ashley will give this one a look, but it's going to be about 10 rows deep. So far, 3 2/3, 4 strikeouts. He's allowed 3 hits. Little better than his last outing, but 63 pitches. It's not too bad.
No.
It's a close pitch that just missed. It's 1-1. Over toward third, caught by Cody Ashley. Right place, right time. The inning is over. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 men left. So 4 innings, 1 run so far for Severino Gonzalez. Let's see if his teammates can get him some runs when we come back. His answer. All right, here's the question one more time, Ben. Marlins coach Lenny Harris is Major League Baseball's all-time pinch hits leader. Who is second? Lenny Harris is 212 career pinch hits. Who is number 2?
Number 2.
Not in the ballpark.
He's not in the ballpark.
Nope.
I was going to go with Greg Gross, but I'm going to have to go with Manny Mota for some reason. Sticks out in my mind.
It's a good guess. That's incorrect. Matt Stairs said John Vanderwall.
Mark Sweeney, swing dog.
Mark Sweeney is correct. 175. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack.
Thought for sure it was going to be Manny Mota. I play with Mark. Very good pinch hitter, obviously.
175. Matty, if you're listening in the fine state of Georgia, John Vanderwall was number 7 on the career pinch hits list.
Another former teammate.
Greg Gross was 5th.
Gigi was 5th.
Yep. There's ball 4, and Cody Ashley draws a walk. It's the first walk of the game for Jared Cozart. The Phillies have the leadoff batter on for the 2nd time.
Let's see if we can make one of our walks score. Which would be nice. Tell you what, when Gigi was our baseball coach at Malvern for a couple years, we'd get to throw him BP every now and again, and he would repeatedly, I mean, he'd been out of the game for a while, just hit line drive after line drive to left field. Like riding a bike. Obviously no one better than that man, Lenny Harris.
Who would do the same thing. Line drive to left field, line drive to left field. Cesar hits it foul off his leg. It's 0-1. All right, now refresh my memory. Gigi, he wasn't the head coach. Was he the head coach?
Yeah.
Oh, he was the head coach.
Absolutely.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I guess I did know that. For 2 years?
I want to say 3. It definitely wasn't my senior year, but I want to say maybe it was just 2. I know 2 for sure. Possibly 3.
No balls and 1 strike to Cesar Hernandez. Quick toss over to first. Did he help you at all?
He was great. He was great. Just made the game easier. Didn't put any pressure. You know, he's just easy on the kids. Obviously knew what he was talking about. Knew how to handle us. He was great.
Outside, 1 ball and 1 strike.
I also think we looked at him in a different light because he's a major leaguer.
Right.
Hit that hole, Caesar.
Actually, not a big lead off first. Held on by Morse. Way upstairs, 2-1. Well, this is the wildest that we've seen Cozart in 2 starts. Again, as we mentioned, he came into this ball game with 12 straight scoreless innings. Chuck Hernandez has watched him increase that to 16 straight. Chopper over to shortstop. Well, they're not going to be able to turn 2, but they do get the lead runner. Putout goes 6-4, another fielder's choice. Who are the 4 players who best represent the history of the Phillies, and who are the 4 greatest living Major League Baseball players? Go to MLB.com/franchise4 to cast your ballots. Winners will be revealed during the All-Star Game July 14th on Fox. Cameron Rupp lined out to right field. Hit the ball sharply his first time up. The right at Giancarlo Stanton.
Remember his last at bat on Thursday. He hit a triple off the right field wall in St. Louis. And his first at bat, you're right, he did blister that ball out to Stanton. Goes down as an L9, but he smoked it.
Facing Jared Cozart, 2 Texans. Probably played a few games together down in the minor leagues. The Phils. Cozart was scheduled to go to the University of Missouri if he had not signed with the Phillies. Selected in the 38th round. Rupp did go to college. He went to the University of Texas. Ball in the dirt. Good play by Solano, and it's 2-1.
Very nice play. Very short and wide of the plate right there, but Solano went out and got it. You know how much confidence that instills in a pitcher, knowing that you can make that pitch, even with a man on third, saying, you know what, even if I do bounce this, which I have to do, I know my boy's going to pick me up.
Out toward right center field. That's going to drop in for a base hit. Hernandez will stop at second. That means that Severino Gonzalez will come up in probably a sacrifice situation to move the runners up into scoring position. Both runners.
Well, Cameron Rupp doing a very nice job hitting ball to right field. Now with that swing, he can work anywhere on the diamond. If it's a little bit slower, he's going to pull it because that swing plane is still on the same path. Really nice swing.
Severino bunted at it, missed it. It's 0-1.
He jabbed at that one.
Jabs at it again. It's 0-2.
One thing I saw the other day that the Marlins did early was Brett Butler had them out, the pitchers out bunting early, and he was pretty darn close to him, and he was throwing all different pitches, throwing them hard, making it more like a game situation. Anybody can sit off a pitching machine throwing 70 and just get every bunt in the world down. But Brett was making it so, I mean, he was throwing, breaking balls, changeups, and when he was throwing his fastball, they were firm, kind of more like a game situation.
Well, he bunts that foul, and he is struck out. And that's 6 strikeouts for Cozart. Gonna have to work on that with Severino.
Yeah, there were 3 poor attempts there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that would really get you, it's all day long. You get a guy just out throwing regular BP. Yeah, you're going to get bunts down, but in a game situation, it's a lot firmer. It's moving everywhere.
Did he have the L screen in front of him, or is he throwing without the L screen?
He was throwing, and this was strictly bunting. And then he threw BP to them, and then he put the L screen up. But good way to do it.
Ben Revere is 1 for 2, an infield single his first time up. He grounded out to first his last time. Takes a breaking ball low and in, and it's 1-0. Three for his last 11. Much better than his overall numbers.
Hit one in that right center gap. We'll see the big boy score from first.
Well, he should get a fastball here. Ahead 2-0. Chops it toward the hole. Echeverria back. Oh, it goes under his glove into left field. Hernandez will score. I guess it'll be a fielder's choice or an infield single, but the Phillies have tied it up at 1. I don't think he would have gotten anybody. Maybe he would have gotten Rupp at second base.
He probably could have gotten Cameron at second, but it looked like it went right through his glove.
Yeah, it's going to have to be an error. Oh, they scored a base hit. All right, so it's an RBI single for Ben Revere. And the Phillies have tied this ball game up at 1. He went a long way. Yeah, he was trying to make the throw or make the plant before he even had the ball.
Just went underneath his glove.
So a break for the Phils. They tie it up at 1, and now they've got a runner in scoring position with 2 men down and Chase Utley coming up. They appeal to third. The third base umpire, Manny Gonzalez, says that Hernandez did hit the bag.
I know it wasn't the walk, Cody Ashley's walk to score, but they still had the base runner on there.
Here's Hernandez coming around the bag. Take a look, and he is right smack dab in the middle. I'm not sure what they saw. Utley pulls it toward first, and it's caught out of the air by Mike Morse. Side is retired. The Phils do get the run back to tie this ball game up on an RBI single by Ben Revere. To the bottom of the fifth we go, tied up at 1. Bank with more than 6 million people in the greater Philadelphia region. There's ample opportunity to help. Build houses, volunteer, or be a mentor. Visit citizensbank.com/community to learn more. Good banking is simple, clear, and personal, and that's helping you bank better. Citizens Bank. 1-1 ball game. We go to the bottom of the fifth inning. The Solanos will lead it off. Donovan and Jonathan, and then Jared Cozart, who was doing a little pacing in the dugout. And there's a couple of reasons why he probably could be pacing. For the first time in the 2 games, I think he fell behind hitters more often last inning than at any time before the Phillies saw him.
I think he's also pacing because he wants to find the official scorekeeper.
That might be after the game.
I think he was just frustrated. I mean, he was, listen, at the bottom of the lineup. The leadoff walk to Cody Ashley obviously didn't help.
Solano hits one back toward the middle, and Utley will kick it into shallow left. And that'll be a base hit for Donovan Solano. And now Jonathan will come up.
Severino very upset at himself here. You know, ball's very, very catchable. I think it wasn't hit as hard as he thought it was. I threw him a changeup. This ball right back to him.
Oh, right off his glove.
Yeah.
So here's Jonathan, who flied out to shallow center his first time up. Now, Murph, we were talking before about these two guys playing on the same team together. They have done it before on the lower levels when they were growing up, but also once they became professionals too.
Yeah, they obviously played together growing up on different teams in their homeland of Colombia, and they actually they were asked about it and talked about winning 3 straight championships in Colombia when they were playing together. But also at the World Baseball Classic, they got a chance to be teammates once again at that time, and certainly a thrill for both those guys to have an opportunity to do that together.
Well, Jonathan may score his brother here on that ball down the left field line. Donovan's on his way home. Cesar's throw to the plate is not in time. RBI double for Jonathan Solano, and it's 2-1 Marlins.
I don't know how he got to this ball. getting to it is one thing, but barreling it is another. He barreled it and kept it fair. I mean, this ball is in. Rifled it down the left field line, but look where this pitch is. I mean, that's on the chalk
kind
of
of
the batter's
hands
box.
in a little bit, yeah.
Did a great job of hitting, but
so it's 2-1. Marlins are up. Cozart will be the batter. Now Cozart's probably up there to try to sacrifice Solano over to third. We mentioned during our last telecast when Cozart was at the plate, he was a heck of a high school hitter. In fact, there were some folks that thought that when he was drafted that he could be an outfielder and not a pitcher. He broke Jay Buhner's record for batting average at his high school his senior year. He hit over 500 his senior year, and he bunts it toward first, a foul ball.
I think that meeting was, listen, guys, if we're bouncing off the mound, bouncing in from first base, he bunts it hard enough, we might have a shot at third.
Yeah, you got a catcher running from second. No offense, Ben.
What's that supposed to mean?
Just no offense. Catcher running from second. That's in there for a strike. It's 0-2.
And that would be a huge out because Ichiro coming up next with one out. You know, if they can't get him at third, he'd be on third with one out and Ichiro at home plate. And you know the way he puts the ball in play, but it doesn't matter because he struck out.
Yep, he's down on strikes. Cozart flips his helmet into the bat rack and just walks away. But didn't actually make it to the bat rack.
Frank Menechino not too pleased with that.
You think he's going to walk it to him?
He might.
He's walking it down the dugout. Yeah, he is walking it down the dugout. No, he dropped it. Ichiro shows bunt, and he missed it, and it's 0-1. He thought he pulled the bat back.
Frank's not the biggest in stature, but he's not going to take anything from anyone.
Well, Cozart just threw his batting gloves, and Menechino just picked it up. 1 ball and 1 strike. He's pacing again.
Inside himself. See, this is where being a young kid, just put it behind you. You have a 1-run lead right now. Put it behind you. Go pitch.
Ground ball, flagged down by Severino, and he throws out Ichiro. And there are 2 outs. And here comes Echeverria. It's a pretty good job by the young right-hander. He got a couple outs now, and now he can see his way through this, allowing just the 1 run.
He's gotten to Danny twice on strikeouts.
Justin DeFreitas warming up in the bullpen. And that one's lined out toward right at Grady Sizemore, who puts it away, and the inning is over. 1 run on 2 hits. 1 man left in scoring position. The Solanos have given the Marlins a 2-1 lead. amidst it all that he is producing at the plate with consistency. Galvis hit the ground running in April and was among the National League batting leaders the entire first month. 3-hit games have come often from his bat, no matter where he bats in the lineup. Oh, and his glove? It's been working pretty well in the field, stealing hits on a daily basis. Freddie's first month has been impressive. And it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Freddie Galvis getting the day off today. The Phillies trailing 2-1 as we go to the top of the 6th inning. Much better game than the last 2 for the Phils, even though they're trailing by 1. Jared Cozart, we'll see if his temper will get the best of him as we begin the top of the 6th inning. He did not particularly like the way the top of the 5th went, and he didn't like the way his bunting went in the bottom of the 5th inning. Whether that carries over or not, we'll see. Darren Ruff will lead it off. Ruff is 0 for 2. He's grounded out twice. Once to first, once back to the mound. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it back. It's 0-1. And 2. Cozart wanted that pitch, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Cozart last year came over to the Marlins and was 4-4 with a 2.39 ERA in 10 starts. This after winning 7 games for the Houston Astros. I think a lot of people were surprised that the Astros would part with him, but they do have a number of prospects in their system, and some have made their way up to the big leagues already. And that pitch got a piece of Darren Ruff. And a hit by pitch to start the 6th inning.
You never want to get rid of a younger kid with a lot of promise, especially with above average arm. But maybe they saw something that, hey, I think they'd be better off without him.
And they got Marisnik, who, as we said, made that catch last night up on Towles Hill. Part of the reason why they were happy they picked him up last year is because Jose Fernandez went down with the Tommy John surgery. So they were able to use Cozart in one of those spots. Here's Howard. He's 0 for 2. He struck out twice. First pitch is way outside. It's 1-0. Well, he's allowed 1 run today, Murph, but these Marlins pitchers, at least from our vantage point, have been pretty darn good even without Henderson Alvarez and Jose Fernandez.
They really have, Tom. You know, the Marlins are red hot. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. And, you know, you have to tip your cap to their pitchers because they are doing it with pitching. In those 10 games, they've allowed just 18 runs total, no more than 3 runs in any of those games. And they have not allowed more than 10 hits in any of those games as well. You take that 3 runs over the last 10 games, that's the first time that a pitching staff has done that since 1982. You have to go back to the Detroit Tigers in 1982 to see a stat like that. So they have done a very good job. And,
wow,
you know, we talk about their offense, we talk about their ability to score runs, and you kind of, you know, lay it at their feet of the pitchers if they're not going to be successful. But over this stretch, they certainly have them.
Well, they have. Chuck Hernandez should be given a lot of credit for what the pitchers have done during this stretch. I think he's got an issue right now. I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, but you got a very frustrated right-hander out on the mound. And hopefully the Phillies can capitalize on it because Cozart is honked for a handful of reasons, whether it be the way the top of the 5th inning went, the way the bottom of the 5th inning went, or the fact that he just hit Darren Ruff to start the 6th inning.
And he had him in the hole 0-2. Did he have Darren Ruff? But, you know, I don't like his composure right now. He was visibly frustrated in the dugout before that at bat.
And Howard hits it toward the alley in right center field. Ozuna is going to try to track it down. He can't. It goes all the way to the wall. Ruff's around third. He's heading home. Ryan Howard's thinking 3. Solano's throw to third is not in time. An RBI triple for Ryan Howard, and we're tied up at 2.
Peace. The big piece. Picking them up and putting them down. As soon as that ball got by Ozuna, there was no hesitation in his get up. And that ball is center cut. Ryan Howard, that's a very good aggressive swing. Definitely the best swing he's taken all day. The big man just never breaks stride. It's a great feeling. Most exciting playing baseball, Tom.
The triple?
I think so.
First triple of the season. He had one last year. And here's Grady Sizemore. The infield is in. The Phils tied at 2 here in the top of the 6th inning. Sizemore takes low. It's 1-0. Boy, get a fly ball here. A few steps back. And maybe the Phillies can take the lead. And a liner out toward left field. That'll drop in for a base hit. Ryan Howard will score. It's 3-2. Phil's on top. And still nobody out here in the 6th inning.
You can't keep your emotions in check. Your pitching's going to suffer.
Yeah, it's definitely affected him. And Mike Redmond's coming out. Jared Cozart was not happy when he saw Redmond pop out of the dugout. This is the second trip, so he can't even convince him to let him stay in the ball game. They're going to go to A.J. Ramos here with nobody out in the top of the 6th inning, and the Phillies have taken a 3-2 lead, and the runner on first is his responsibility. Well, he's going to go to the other entrance, far away from the coaching staff. Just 24 years old. And you can see his emotions definitely got the best of him here this afternoon. Phillies have the lead. We'll be back with a pitching change right after this. A hit by pitch, a triple by Ryan Howard, and an RBI single by Grady Sizemore. And the Marlins have gone to their bullpen. A quick hook, and A.J. Ramos will take over. Ramos in his 13th game, no wins, no losses, a 1.32 ERA. And he'll face Cody Ashe. Cozart, what he realizes he's coming out of this game.
Very demonstrative, and he did not want out of this ball game. He's seething right now.
First pitch to Ashe with a runner at first. Taken low, 1 ball, no strikes.
You know, it's good to see because you see that competitive nature, but once it gets the better of you.
And you agree it got the better of him, didn't it?
I think absolutely. I think once he hit rough, he was done.
1 ball, no strikes. And Ashe fouls it away. It's 1-1. Cody has struck out today. He's walked.
Now he's looking at it like he didn't do anything. You have to think about the good things you did.
Well, he was very good for the first really 4 innings of this game. 16 straight scoreless innings before the Phillies scored in the 5th. And that's what he's done against the Phils in 2 starts this year. Outside, 2-2. Darren Ruff got it started by, when he was down 0-2, he got hit by a pitch. Check swing. Did he go? Oh, yes, is Manny Gonzalez. Second time that Ashley has struck out. Well, that changeup is his out pitch.
And we saw that the other night. He definitely goes there. Very good changeup. And he went to it as soon as he got 2 strikes or could go to it. He went to it.
Out toward left field. And a lot of real estate out there. Ichiro gets under it, puts it away, and there are 2 outs. A reminder, the Phillies' fantastic auction is still going on. Private hitting clinic with Chase Utley. Take Cody Ashley to your school. Lunch with Hall of Famer Ryan Sandberg in his office. All this is up for bid, plus so much more. Go to Phillies.com. The fantastic auction. Partners include WIP and WPHT and benefits Phillies Charities Incorporated. Auction ends on May 13th and May 14th. The athletic trainer and Chuck Hernandez are coming out. I don't know if A.J. Ramos did something on that last pitch, but something caused them to stir in the dugout. Kind of slides off to the first base side, Ben, when he throws, and I don't know if he did something when that happened, or if he felt something when that happened.
I didn't see anything. We were watching it live.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look at this. Right there, he's kind of stretching his arm out. Yeah. Well, you never want to see that. Honestly, if you're the Marlins, I wonder if you just tell them, all right, listen, we're going to take you out of this game. Let's just, as a precaution. Looks like he said he was okay.
He said, I'm good to go.
I mean, sometimes a cramp is all it is, but you feel it all a little tingling in that arm when you make a pitch.
That's the thing you have to be concerned
yeah.
with. Tingling anywhere. Something's not right.
They already have Henderson Alvarez on the shelf with shoulder inflammation. Jose Fernandez coming back from Tommy John surgery. 2 outs, runner at first. Cameron Rupp is up. He is 1 for 2. And a pitch inside corner for a strike. Well, he's still throwing 92. Although I remember Jabba Chamberlain with the Yankees was throwing in the low 90s. Actually, was throwing 93, 94, but he needed surgery, Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
He went around, and it's 0-2 to Cameron Rupp.
That's a good pitch there. That's a tight slider.
him another one, and it's 1-2. So at a Major League scoreboard, the Braves are shutting out the Reds 4-0. Kelly Johnson has a home run, a couple RBIs. He's starting to swing it a little bit for the Braves. Phillies will head to Atlanta after this game.
You see that changeup again? He went slider, slider, changeup. See a heater away. It's a very unorthodox follow through. And he really recoils that arm. He doesn't follow through to his left knee at all. I mean, he lets it go and he just snaps that arm back. He's in a good position to field that ball, isn't he, Tom?
With his back. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and a line drive caught by Reed Brignac. Side is retired, but the Phillies take the lead. They get a couple runs, 2 base hits against Jared Kozart. Middle of the 6th, Phillies 3, Marlins 2. By Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. By Toyota, the Toyota Times sales event ends June 1st. Hurry in today. Toyota, let's go places. And by the Pennsylvania Lottery, benefits older Pennsylvanians. Alligator, crocodile, Ben, what do you think?
Was it freshwater or saltwater?
I don't know the answer. Freshwater.
Freshwater is a gator.
All right. There's A.J. Ramos talking with the Marlins athletic trainer after he did get through that inning. I think that's going to be his only inning because there is bullpen action again for the Marlins. Chuck Hernandez part of that conversation too. Giancarlo Stanton will face Justin DeFreitas as we begin the 6th. First pitch is in there. It's 0-1. Severino Gonzalez 5 innings today. And he allowed 5 hits and 2 runs. And here are the numbers on DeFreitas. Foul ball off Paul Schreiber. I guess he's okay. Cam making sure that Paul Schreiber's okay after that foul ball.
Paul almost swallowed his jaw.
Oh, it hit his mask. I thought it hit his chest protector. Swing and a miss. He got him with a slider. 6th strikeout, excuse me, today. Severino had 5 strikeouts, 78 pitches for Severino Gonzalez.
Yeah, you wonder.
I think it was just a confidence thing. Take him out with a lead.
Yeah. Well, you've had a bullpen that's been taxed. I mean, it's
No, I'm with you. Marcell Ozuna, the batter, with 1 out. Inside, 1 ball, no strikes.
And yesterday didn't kill you because Cole did give you 6, despite not being on top of his game. But 78 pitches.
He went around, and it's 1-1 to Ozuna.
Stanton was hot after that strikeout.
He wasn't happy with himself?
Not happy.
Well, what did he swing at those pitches for?
I don't know. They looked good for a minute.
One and one, no Ozuna. Swing and a miss and a slider, 1-2. He's got a pretty good bite to that slider right now.
Tight.
And he got him back-to-back strikeouts.
Man.
7 strikeouts for Phil's pitching. And Mike Morse is coming up.
This is as good a pitch as you can have. I mean, you could see where that started out. That started out right in the middle of the strike zone. Right in the middle. So out of his hand, you're thinking strike, strike, strike. You don't pick up the rotation. You're going to swing at that so-called strike.
Mike Morse is 0 for 2. He's grounded out and he's struck out.
A little more hair in that heater too, Tom. 93 right there. Sorry for all these hair comments.
I've stopped taking offense to hair comments a long time ago. The ball's at 2 strikes to Mike Morse. Swing and a miss. He just struck out the side. And you want to talk about doing it efficiently. Justin DeFreitas strikes out Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, Mike Morse, 3, 4, and 5 for the Marlins. Take a look. Slider. Stanton's down. Slider. Ozuna's down. And Mike Morse, no need for the slider, just a little cheese. At 3-2 as we go to the top of the 7th inning. Ryan Howard's triple tied the game up, and then Grady Sizemore's single gave them the lead. Severino Gonzalez, his second major league start. 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, way better than start number 1. Jared Kozar went 5+, left frustrated by the Marlins. And now as we go to the 7th inning, Justin DeFreitas is talking about the top of the or bottom of the 6th inning that he just struck out the side. Look at the reaction by Jerome Williams as they were talking.
That man had some fun in the bottom half of the 6th inning.
What'd you say, his fastball topped off at 94?
94 right there to strike out Morse. I mean, he went through 3, 4, 5 like it was like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, Williams is kind of talking technique right there as they discuss what was going on in that 6th inning. Jerome made a face at one point like,
whoo. He's like, what was that? And Justin is ecstatic, as well he should be. That was.
Well, Andres Blanco will pinch hit for the Phils and pinch hit for Justin DeFreitas here in the top of the 7th inning. And Brian Morris, been some talk about Brian Morris possibly being the closer if Steve Cishek continues to struggle. No balls and 1 strike to Blanco, and he fouls it. It's 0-2. Blanco 1 for 5 so far as a pinch hitter. Luis Garcia throwing in the bullpen. Ground ball towards second, backhanded by Donovan Solano, and there's 1 out. Coming up tonight, get a complete recap of the Eagles draft picks with Derek Gunn's interviews, Ray Dittinger's analysis on Sportsnet Central. That's tonight at 6 and 10 right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Draft finished up yesterday. A lot of free agents. Well, most of the free agents that were enticing the teams have been signed. Ben Revere 2 for 3. An RBI his last time. On the outside corner, 0-1. And a line drive base hit for Revere. It's a 3-hit day.
Happy birthday, Ben.
Yeah, Ben celebrating his 27th birthday. And doing so with a couple of pretty good swings.
That one's by far the loudest.
Yeah, the first one was an infield hit. The second one, well, should have been fielded on the infield, but that one, he smokes up the middle. His average up to 242. That wouldn't have been very happy if he got picked off there. That's off the glove of Solano, and Revere will go up to scoring position. So the Phils have a chance to add to their lead. I do believe that I'll go down as a pass ball. The Marlins have not been as crisp defensively here today. They scored that a wild pitch. That should be a pass ball. I don't want to speak for catchers everywhere, but
that's a pass ball. Clank.
Tell you the Major League scoreboard. Washington and the Mets are battling up at Citi Field. Nats lead at 1-0. It could have been 2-0 or 3-0, but Michael Kadire robbed Ryan Zimmerman of a home run out in left field. He jumped up over the fence to pull it back. That one's pulled to the right side. Solano to his left. He kicks it, and Utley is safe at first.
We were praising the Fish yesterday. They had 6 errors coming into today's ball game, and 2 of them were made by Saltalamacchia, who's not even here. And today it's been very sloppy.
Wow, they gave this a base hit. That's good for Chase. I think there are going to be some changes to the official scoring in the next few days when some coaches make an appeal. Okay, they just changed it to an E4.
Man.
Darren Ruff is now the hitter with runners on first and third. And Ruff takes low, 1 ball and no strikes. A fly ball would give the Phils an extra run here, which would be huge. Murph talked about how the Marlins staff has not given up many runs, particularly during this stretch of successful games they've had. 1 ball, no strikes to Ruff. And a line drive base hit it to left field. Revere will score. It's 4-2 Phillies. Utley will stop at second. An RBI single for Ruff. Yeah, that's his 5th RBI of the season.
The guy out there is throwing 96. Yes, this slider does hang, but you know you're trusting your swing, seeing the ball. You get this pitch, it's up. I mean, it's a spinner, and that's a short swing, but you have to be ready for that fastball. You get a spinner like that, I mean, you can hit them hard, but it's a great piece of hitting there by Darren.
So Ruff now with 5 RBIs in the year. And here's Ryan Howard. Howard tripled his last time up. He's 1 for 3. And he pulls that one. A base hit it to right center field. Utley's around third, heading for home. Stanton's throw to the plate is on 1 hop. Not in time. He got his foot in. An RBI single for Ryan Howard. It's 5-2 Phillies. Utley had to hesitate for a moment because he wasn't sure if that ball would be caught. That's why that play was even closer. I think he got his foot in. I know that the Marlins are going to the phones to check underneath whether the tag was made or not.
I can't believe this play is even as close as it is. I mean, it's a great throw by Stanton. He is very accurate, but he's safe.
He is safe. So the Phils lead at 5-2, and for Ryan Howard, it's his first multi-hit game since the 21st of April.
Right there, right on top of it.
Yep, foot goes across the plate. The Phillies may not be done. There's 1 man down, runners on first and third. And Grady Sizemore, who is 1 for 3, is the batter. Half-hearted swing. Off the mound is Morris to second for 1, and that's all they'll get. Pretty heads-up play to go to second base on that.
It was very heads-up, but it was also a good play by Darren Ruff not to get caught in a rundown there. Or to break on that. But yeah, that was a headsy play by Morris.
Well, this is the floodgates for the Phillies offense here. They've scored 2 runs, capitalizing on the error by Donovan Solano.
Scored in 3 straight innings. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to say that a whole lot this year. It's nice.
Ashley's 0 for 2. He struck out twice. And he foul tips this one. It's 0-1. Sam Dyson throwing in the pen.
Another one out there, Cody. Why not?
Swing and a miss, and Ashe is struck out for the third time in today's game. But 2-run score for the Phils. They send 7 men to the plate. Ryan Howard, a multi-hit game. Chase Utley chugging along just ahead of the tag of Solano. Phillies lead it 5-2. Earlier this week in St. Louis, the Phillies have a lead 5-2 as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. And one of the reasons why is Phillies play good defense. It's time for a Hyundai defensive play of the game, and from one catcher to another, Ben, this is a pretty good throw by Cameron Rupp.
It is unbelievable. He gets rid of it quickly, but this ball is just rocketed to second base. It's a great feeling as a catcher, I will say that. Helping your pitcher out, helping your ball club out, and that is why that is your Hyundai defensive player of the game.
Brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. Here's Luis Garcia coming in with a 3-run lead to work with. Phillies scored 2 runs in their half of the 7th inning. 1 earned, 1 unearned. And Garcia will take over for Justin DeFreitas, who quite honestly had his best outing the entire year. Not because he struck out all 3 batters that he faced, but just the life on his fastball and the movement on his slider. Ben Revere has had 3 hits today. He's moved over to left field, and Odubel Herrera will come into the ballgame to play center field. Darren Ruff, meanwhile, will shift over to first base, and Ryan Howard's day is done. So Luis Garcia, who's been rather effective for the Phils, will face Reed Brignac, Donovan Solano, and Jonathan Solano. Garcia will bat 4th in the Phillies order. Although he's probably in there for just 1 inning because Ken Giles, you would think, will pitch the 8th and then Papelbon the 9th. These changes the Phillies have made are really more for defense than anything else. Brignac's 0 for 2. He's flied out and lined out. And he chops that one toward first. Darren Ruff waits and wins the race to the bag.
That's a thing of beauty, isn't it?
1 pitch, 1 away.
A thing of beauty.
Donovan Solano's now the batter. He singled his last time up. He's 1 for 2.
And he said that was Justin DeFreitas' best inning of the year. I'd have to disagree. I'd say it was probably the best inning of his life.
Huh.
I'm serious. It was that good. And I don't know what he found, but the way he was talking to Jerome Williams and Bob McClure,
it was that he found something.
He was ecstatic.
He threw only 10 pitches, 9 strikes, 1 ball.
And 3 punches.
To the heart of the order, Stanton, Ozuna, and Morse. A 1 pitch to Solano. Chopper out to shortstop. Come get it, Cesar. He does. And he throws across the diamond. 2 outs. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire, the opposition 1-2-3. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, the official entertainment provider of the Philadelphia Phillies. Severino Gonzalez retired the Marlins once in order, then DeFreitas once in the 6th. And now Garcia has the first 2 outs on 3 pitches. Brad Hand.
What we saw Luis do in St. Louis. 2 quick outs and up with a couple walks. Hopefully he doesn't do that this inning, but you know, that's why there's 3 outs per inning. Stay focused throughout.
Outside, ball 4. So he walks him. Just the second walk issued by Phil's pitching. And Justin Moore will come up as a pinch hitter for the Marlins. 4 for 5 as a pinch hitter. Wonder if Lenny Harris, the all-time hits leader, pinch hit leader, there's a little wisdom to some of these guys as they prepare to pinch hit in games.
Well, I'm sure he definitely has some input as to what to look for. In certain situations, you have to take different approaches.
Chopper back towards shortstop. And Hernandez will go the long way in time. Inning is over. So despite the 2-out walk, a pretty easy inning for Luis Garcia. We've played 7. We'll go to the 8th. The Phils lead by 3. By W.B. Mason, you can't go wrong when you buy right. And buy your Delaware Valley Honda dealers. Hurry to the local Del Val Honda dealer or visit DelValHondaDealers.com today. Inside here at Marlins Park, the Phillies lead it 5-2. Fortunately, that art apparatus has not gone off here today. No home runs for the Marlins. Brad Hand will take over as we go to the top of the 8th inning. Phillies have scored 5 runs today. 4 of those runs are earned. Murph talked about the pitching and how good the Marlins pitching staff has been. They had not allowed more than 3 runs in a game since April 19th. Ryan Howard's a big reason why the Phillies have scored 5 runs today. He's got a triple, RBI single. That's a heck of a run of 3 runs or less since the 19th of April.
Sure is.
1 ball, no strikes to Hernandez. 0 for 3.
You hear about offenses and hitters feeding off each other. Bullpens do the same thing. Pitching staffs do the same thing.
Had a play off to the right. And Giles throwing in the bullpen. Outside, ball 4. So Hernandez walks. And Cameron Rupp will bat here in the 8th inning. Phillies trying to end this 5-game losing streak. They need to get 6 more outs in order to do so, but it'd be a bad idea to just put it out of reach here offensively. Rupp is 1 for 3.
Wouldn't mind seeing that. The paid attendance today?
I don't think I heard it. It was 30,000 last night.
It was like 33, 3 something last night, right?
Yeah, I think we're in the 20,461.
It just doesn't seem like there's that many people here. I don't know.
Well, honestly, yesterday's crowd and today's crowd, these are probably 2. Murph, you and I were talking about this yesterday. These are probably 2 of the largest crowds that we've seen when the Phillies have come into Marlins Park. Wouldn't you agree with that? 1 ball and 2 strikes. And that's low, 2-2.
I don't know. I guess because it's it's a massive place. I think it's just maybe because of the upper deck, just no one being up there. But it just doesn't seem like that many. Numbers don't lie, though.
Numbers don't lie. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Runner goes. Pitch is fouled back. So we'll do it all over again.
A great jump. Very, very good jump there.
They throw over just to keep Hernandez close. In the dirt, 3-2. All right, now would you send him 3 balls, 2 strikes, nobody out?
I would.
You got Odubel on deck. It's not the pitcher's spot.
And that's why I would. Because he has been one of the Phillies' hottest hitters. Odds are he's going to put one in play. Might be a hit.
Well, they throw over thinking the same thing, keeping Hernandez close. Even though Hernandez has struggled offensively this year, he does have speed.
Juan Samuel.
Runner goes. Pitch is swung out and missed. The throw to second base, not in time. Cesar Hernandez gets a stolen base. A strikeout of Cameron Rupp, so 1 away here in the 8th inning. Family packs are now available for select weekend dates at Citizens Bank Park. The family pack includes 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, and 4 sodas for $100. A great value for families. Order now at Phillies.com. Odubel Herrera is the batter, up for the first time.
I think part of that also is Cesar got such a good jump off a hand before. Obviously, he had him down and had the leg kick, and might as well send him again.
Well, now time is called as Solano goes out to talk to Hand. Yeah, there's a lot of conversations going on between Juan Samuel and Cesar Hernandez before that stolen base. By the way, speaking of Juan Samuel, you did an unbelievable impersonation of Juan Samuel's batting stance the other day for him in the dugouts.
He did get a kick out of it, didn't he?
He did.
Loved watching
As soon
Sammy.
as you stood and got yourself ready before you pulled the bat up, he knew exactly where you were going.
Oh, yeah.
Odubel takes a breaking ball. It's 0-1.
He had that fungo in his hand. I said, Sammy, let me see that stick for a second. And he handed it to me, and I went in and he knew immediately.
He had a pretty distinct stance.
Yes, he did.
Swing and a miss, 0-2. Hernandez creeping off second, and the pitch is low and away, 1-2.
That's the thing about the National League. Just because you have a day off doesn't necessarily mean it's a day off. The double switch is always in the back of these players' minds. You know, come around the 4th, 5th inning, might want to start to limber up a bit. Maybe take a few whacks off the tee.
Particularly if you're a pretty good defensive player, or
Absolutely.
you're a stronger defensive player than the guy that is filling in for you that day. There he goes, Hernandez, and this ball is floated out towards center field, a base hit. Hernandez will score. Odubel Herrera gets an RBI single, and it's now 6-2 Phillies on top.
Man, it's something. His hand-eye coordination, I tell you. Not exactly sure why Cesar was running on that play, but hey, it worked out.
Well, Cesar was getting such a good secondary lead, he was almost halfway to third.
Such an easy swing, and he still hit that ball pretty hard.
Cesar had to take a peek back just to make sure that that ball had dropped. So now Ben Revere. There goes Herrera, and the pitch is taken inside, and no chance for Solano to throw him out. So Herrera has a stolen base. 2 stolen bases in this inning for the Phillies.
You know, another thing with Cesar being out there, being a middle infielder, he may have been able to pick up the signs that Han and Solano are using. Maybe he knew it was going to be a breaking ball. Said, I know I'm going to get something slow here. It might be in the dirt, it might not, but it's going to be slower and give me more time to get to third. You know, Han for a lefty just really doesn't have a very good move. He's not fooling anybody.
And he turns back towards second just to try to keep Herrera close. One ball, no strikes to Revere. And Ben chops it, backhanded by hand. And he's retired. Over to third goes Herrera. 1-3 on the putout. And let's see if Chase Utley can bring him in. Utley reached on an error his last time up. He's 0 for 4 with a run scored. And he pulls that one foul down the right field line.
I've seen more balls go in that crevice of that stadium in these last 3 games. I'm telling you. It's like a magnet down there.
Utley swings at the breaking ball, and he's down on strikes. That's the kind of swing he's had during this first month of the season. The Phillies, though, get the run across the plate on a pinch hit or RBI single by Odubel Herrera. They lead it by 4. of the 8th inning. Tonight's Cold Hard Fact is brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. The Phillies' next win over the Marlins will be the 200th for the franchise. They currently have 199 and a 165 record against Miami since they entered the league in '93. The Phillies' best season against them was in 2001 when they won 14 of the 19 games against the Marlins. Larry Bowa was the skipper back in 2001. No balls and 1 strike to Ichiro. And Ichiro hits it toward Brett Butler at third. And it's 0-2. Ichiro has an infield hit today. 2,862 career hits. He's hitting just under 350 lifetime against the Phillies. Tried to check his swing. Did he go? Yes, says Manny Gonzalez. And Ichiro has struck out. And Giles 1-1, a 0.87 ERA. Picked up the loss the other night in the 9th inning against the Marlins. Yeah, the Phillies can come out with a win here. You think back to that Friday game. They had chances to win that game, even though the Marlins dominated the offensive numbers.
They got the 3 runs on the 3-run homer by Chase.
Yep. Herrera on the run. He misjudged it for a moment, reaches up and makes the catch. And there are 2 outs.
For a man that entered the ball game in the 7th inning, he's sure done a lot already. I'll tell you what, it's just. Did you think he was going to get there?
I thought he was initially. Then he stopped. When he stopped and then started to accelerate again, I'm thinking, uh-oh.
I mean, he caught that with ease. Ball was hit well. And that's, I'm telling you, you play second base your whole life, and then you go to the outfield. It's tough.
Stanton hits it toward right center field. Herrera comes in, calls off Grady Sizemore, and the side is retired. Getting his work in. He may have arrived a little late, but he certainly has stretched his legs enough. We'll go to the 9th with the Phils up 6-2. Weather will be Thursday, May 14th at the ballpark. After the ball game, it's a senior stroll the bases. All that will happen before, the weather education day, before the game begins against the Pirates. They'll wrap up a 4-game series. Tickets can be purchased by going to Phillies.com. No need for a weatherman here today. The roof is closed. Doesn't matter what's going on outside. Bright sunshine, blue skies.
Funny you didn't mention that earlier.
We'll go to the 9th. Darren Ruff will lead it off. It's Brad Hand, and he takes a pitch up high, 1-0. Ruff is 1 for 3 on RBI single, a run scored. Out of play, 1-1. Off the hands, he loops it out towards shallow right. Donovan Solano makes the catch, 1 out. And that will bring Jeff Francoeur to the plate as a pinch hitter. Phillies are heading to Atlanta. Francoeur lives about 40 miles from downtown Atlanta. He has not been home like a lot of the players since before spring training, so it's one of the luxuries of playing in the National League East is when he goes to Atlanta, he can go home for a couple days with the off day on Thursday. 0-1.
Matt will be joining you guys in Atlanta.
I think Matt is already there.
That's right. He went down to play a little golf.
0-2.
I will accompany my parents, who are Bill and Cheryl at the game today. They're going to drive me back to their place in Estero. Figured my wife's at home with 4 kids for 7 days.
Why not take a couple more?
I figured, you know what? She's enjoying it so much, take a couple more.
1 ball and 2 strikes. I would think the remote and everything else is being thrown at the Davis TV right now.
I'm sure she's at a game somewhere.
Francoeur takes low. It's now 2 balls and 2 strikes. Tomorrow in Atlanta at Turner Field, the Phillies and the Braves, 7 o'clock on Comcast Sportsnet.
Aaron Harang will be going for the Phillies.
And Alex Wood will start for the Braves. And Jeff Francoeur is down looking. 2 outs. There's Aaron. Coming off a tough start against the Cardinals. Good bullpen session, though, he was saying this past week. In preparation for his start against his former team. Here's Grady Sizemore, who is 1 for 4. Sizemore loops one into left, a base hit. So he has his 2nd hit. A couple of guys who have not had multi-hit games in a while have done so here this afternoon.
He has been getting a couple hits recently, and a lot of those have been to left field, which you like to see. Opposite field, staying inside the ball.
Well, he's at first, so a little bit of a milestone for the opposition here today. The Marlins had not allowed more than 10 hits in each of their last 18 contests. So now the Phillies have 10, and they're on the doorstep of changing all that. It's all part of the Marlins staff that has pitched very well. Another throw over to first. Sizemore scampers back. I don't know if he's going to be going anywhere.
I don't think so. But now I have a firmer understanding of why Cesar and Odubel got some stolen bases. That's just not a good move by lefty.
Check swing, and he went, and it's 0-1.
Think about it. I mean, that's something that a lefty, all the time they spend down that bullpen, they'd be able to practice it or work on it. Even if you get 2 outs a year on it. I mean, that's 2 outs that you don't have to do anything.
Inside, 2-1. Actually has struck out 3 times in this game. He's also walked. That was back in the 5th inning. Phil's with 6 runs on 10 hits. The Marlins 2 runs on 5 hits. Marlins have committed a couple errors that led to 1 unearned run. Only their 2nd unearned run allowed this year. And Ashley takes low, 3-1. Cesar Hernandez. Chopper right side. Solano takes the big hop, and the inning is over. So the Phils, no runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left, 3 outs away from getting out of Dodge with a victory. Jonathan Papelbon is going to enter the game as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning here in Miami.
One down, and guys, after this game is over, as you mentioned, Tom, off to Atlanta go the Phils, and here are your pitching matchups. Starting tomorrow on Monday, a 7:10 start. Aaron Harang and the lefty Alex Wood will be on the hill for the Braves. On Tuesday, our first look at Chad Billingsley as he joins the Phillies rotation. He'll be opposed by Shelby Miller, and then Jerome Williams moved back 1 day. He'll pitch on Wednesday at 7:10 against Mike Polpanevich. They are your starters for the Phillies versus the Braves. But, guys, this one's not over yet.
Not over yet, Murph, but they're going to bring Jonathan Papelbon on in an unsafe situation to try to close the door and end this losing streak. Papelbon, 9 games, no wins, no losses, a 0.96 ERA, 10 strikeouts in 9 1/3. Now, he was on in last night's ball game just to get some work, and he worked a scoreless 8th inning. But along the way, he walked a batter and hit a batter in that inning. Marcelo Ozuna leads it off, and Ozuna hits it toward third on 1 hop. Boy, they are swinging early. And there's 1 away, 1 pitch, 1 set aside. I think all of us came to the ballpark today wondering, after Papelbon hit Martin Prado last night, whether somebody from the Phillies would get plunked today by one of the Marlins pitchers. Prado not in the lineup here this afternoon. He had 4 RBIs in last night's ball game.
Yeah, we don't know if it was intentional, but just the way baseball is, you think maybe the Marlins would have, come back at one of the Phillies, but apparently not.
1 ball and no strikes to Mike Morse. Morse is 0 for 3, is struck out twice. And a liner foul, it's 1-1. I think if Cozart or somebody had thrown at one of the Phillies hitters, I don't think anybody in the Phillies dugout would have thought too much of it.
No.
I mean, there might have been some John going back and forth, but swing and a miss, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Yeah, I just thought in that situation an eye for an eye would have transpired, but apparently not.
Papelbon with 111 saves in his Phillies career, 1 shy of Jose Mesa's franchise record. And a called strike 3 right on the inside part of the plate, 2 men down. Hey, hats off to the Phillies bullpen also today. 5 strikeouts. They've allowed just 1 base runner. It was the walk to Solano back in the 7th inning, all in relief of Severino Gonzalez.
And they've done it efficiently. I mean, they really haven't thrown. Oof.
Might have been a ball.
We'll take it.
Here's Reed Brignac. He takes low. Brignac is hitless in 3 at-bats. D. Gordon to your left, JT Realmuto to your right. They didn't play here this afternoon. Line drive to left field, played on one hop by Revere. So that's the first hit allowed by the Phil's pen. And Donovan Solano. Solano takes low. It's 1-0. Out towards shortstop. Cesar Hernandez is up with it. He flips to Utley at second, and the ball game is over. And Severino Gonzalez has earned his first major league victory in just his second major league start, as the Phils end a 5-game losing streak and win it today by a final of 6-2. Ryan Howard had a big day offensively, a multi-hit day, a multi-RBI day. Darren Ruff getting a start in left field for the Phils, also picked up an RBI and a line drive single to left field. Well, this was a good win all the way around by the Phils, and the pitching staff put the exclamation point on it with a dominating performance. Here are our W.B. Mason deliveries of the game, and Ryan Howard certainly came through for the Phils.
In a big way today, your cleanup hitter hitting a triple. Once this ball gets past Ozuna, big piece is thinking 3 all the way. Makes it into third base with a head first slide. And then Grady Sizemore. Very next pitch hits a line drive to left field to give the Phillies a little bit of a cushion.
So the Phils walk away with a 6-2 victory here this afternoon. Darren Ruff got a chance to start, picked up an RBI single, and he's down with Murph. Murph?
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, it seemed like you were kind of in the middle of everything offensively. You get to start today in left field. Let's talk a little bit about you were picking them up and putting them down on Ryan Howard's triple, and that really kind of kickstarted this offense. You're able to put 6 runs on the board. That was pretty big for this team.
Yeah, definitely. That at bat, being down 0-2, just trying to battle, and Cozart made a mistake, hit me, and then fell behind to Howie 2-0, and Howie was aggressive in that situation and put a good swing on it, and then I just kind of ran as fast as I could from there.
Your next at bat, you get the RBI single as well, which for a guy who's getting sporadic playing time right now, the ability to stay sharp has got to be the most difficult thing for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's tough, but that bat, just trying to look for something up. He made a slider, left it up a little bit, and happened to put a good swing on it. So.
This team was in need of a win. You get the win today, and you do it behind Severino Gonzalez, who, really kind of turned things around from his first start. How nice was it to see that and to put a win up on the board?
Yeah, absolutely. He threw a great game. The way he pitches with his pace and gets on the mound and goes, attacks hitters. It's fun to play defense behind that. He ran into a hot Cardinals team his first outing, so, he settled down and threw a great game for us today. Really needed it, and it's cool to be part of his first win, too.
Yeah, he shut down a pretty hot Marlins offense as well today. All right, Darren, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Guys, back upstairs.
All right, Murph, we appreciate Darren's time. Our Chevrolet player of the game, Severino Gonzalez, lifted after 78 pitches, Ben, but he'll still walk away with his first major league victory, and he had a very good repertoire here this afternoon.
I give him all the credit in the world. He really bounced back from really just not a very good outing in St. Louis. He bounced back today, a little more zip on his fastball, but was able to throw his other pitches. It's something he didn't have a chance to do in St. Louis. They were jumping on early fastballs, so this was a great outing by Severino Gonzalez today.
He is our Chevrolet player of the game. The Phils win it 6-2. They stop a 5-game losing streak. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.